you know, like, I guess normal people, they do drugs or they drink and they feel a little goofy, they feel different. For me, as an addict, I do drugs or I drink and I feel corrected. I feel normal. And that's a solution for me that I didn't even know I needed until I found it. So I liked painkillers initially, like she said, because you can't smell painkillers on your breath like alcohol. You can't see it on your eyes like weed. And I just enjoyed the high more. I mean, bottom line was like I liked the way they felt. And they were made by these geniuses in lab coats. They must be safe, you know? So that was my thing. I know people that their drugs are anything else and it's the same symptoms, it's the same stuff. But for me, they were really available. You know, I sold them for a while to fuel my own addiction. I could just have people go get them from their parents' medicine cabinet because everybody has painkillers from a surgery like 10 years ago. And addicts will still take those. We don't put a time limit on your painkillers. That's fine for us. Anybody else? No other questions? Go ahead.
What was the emotion that you would say you felt the most when you first started getting into using anything? Was it a thrill? Was it fear that it was gonna be an addiction? Was it any of that? What was the emotion that you felt?
I mean, like, I enjoyed it in the beginning. I wouldn't have done it. You know, if I didn't have fun or feel better when I was doing the drugs, I wouldn't have kept doing it. So I guess the emotion was like comfort. I felt more comfortable than I ever had. I never realized how uncomfortable I was until I found the drug that made me feel comfortable. It was like I'd been missing a limb my whole life. I didn't know I was missing until I got it back. That's what they were for me. So in the beginning it was great. And the fear started creeping in later when I realized how much I needed them, how often I was taking them, and what I was willing to do for them. Because I was never like that. I wouldn't do these crazy things for a drug. So that's when it got scary for me, when I realized how desperate and hopeless I was getting. It still wasn't enough to make me ask for help, though, yet. Thank you. In the green, go ahead.
I know it's hard to have insight until we've been in your situation, but you mentioned that you went to UP and would sell, I'm assuming heroin. Did you ever sell to people who've never been on it before? And what did that mean?
I didn't sell heroin, and I guess I should probably say allegedly since there's cameras and stuff, but no, I was thrown off the UB campus for coming with painkillers, and I was like 18 or something, and I had Vicodin on me. And they were mainly for personal use and like a buddy who would come, but like they got me, and you know, they processed me there at Buffalo, and the UB campus police were like, don't come back here, you know, we have your name, you're not allowed back on the campus. So no, and like my mom said, that quote I said where like, you know, there's a special place in hell reserved for the person that shoots you up the first time. And I remember saying that, and because like, this disease makes me really angry. I hate that I did these things to my parents. But the truth is, like, that person's hand was there with that needle because I was in this situation where I wanted it to be there, you know? And so now with a little bit clearer eyes, I have to realize that these are sick people just like me, and they're just feeding their own disease just like I was. So I don't know if I still believe that. I still am angry at the first person that shot me up, and I never did that, and I'm thankful because I probably feel really guilty if I did that. But it's important for me to remember they're sick, and they're sick, as sick as I was. Thank you. Go ahead.
What would you say is the most productive way to address a situation if we suspect that a student is using drugs? What are things that we should definitely say? What are things that you think are productive that we shouldn't say?
That's a really good question, and it's really hard because it so depends on the individual, you know. Like, I know friends who, you know, their family had an intervention, and they hit the interventionist. You know, they just weren't ready to hear that. All I can say is, like, don't help someone hide their sickness. Because we do a really good job of that on our own. We don't need help hiding it. My buddy, another person I talked to last night said he got kicked out of the sober house on his birthday and his best friend ran the sober house. It was his best friend in the world who ran it. And he found out he was using it, threw him out, and he was homeless. And he hated him. He was so angry at him for for this for months until he finally hit the spot where he couldn't go any further and he had to get sober. And he has 2 years now. And he's more grateful to that person than anyone else in his life now. So you could end up being the bad guy for calling someone out and saying, look, it looks like you're getting high a lot. It looks like you have a problem. Can we help you? They might be angry with you, and they might end up being grateful a year later. Beyond that, I don't know what else you can do. Like I said, you put a light on it, and if we're not ready for it, we're not ready for it, you know. And hopefully, it'll at least plant a seed for later. Because we do retain that information, we do hold on to it just in case. Go ahead.
You mentioned a lot of guilt and shame for a lot of things that have happened and things you've done. Do you have any advice for anyone who's suffering with a lot of that guilt and shame to help increase their self-worth?
Yeah, you know, I work on my guilt and shame by doing good things now. You know, like this is nerve-wracking for me coming and talking in front of all you guys. I wasn't really thrilled about the idea, but I did a lot of bad things when I was getting high. And like I said, if one of you can help somebody because of something my mother or I said, then that's huge. You know, that takes away from it. So doing good things tends to actually help me feel better as a human, you know. And like part of this program that I work is going back and looking at the things you've done and trying to make them right. And you have to be careful with that because it's a big, heavy process. But that's pretty much it. I feel like a better person when I do good things. Thank you. Nobody else? Oh, go ahead.
I have a question that's kind of for you and for your mom.
Okay.
The thought process of when you're talking about the two sides of the coin and, you know, potentially, you know, keeping your son at home and keeping him safe versus kicking him out, letting him hit rock bottom. I guess a lot of the times you hear the conversation of, you know, you just have to let the person hit rock bottom and then things are going to happen. How do you kind of cope with that, make that decision? Was it beneficial? Like, it, you know, where's, I know every situation is different, but.
It's really hard because, you know, even though we don't come with instruction manuals, you babies, when you're born, we have a sensibility, especially, I would say, as mothers. And the father of my children is sitting in the first row, so I say that because he was a fabulous father, is a fabulous father. But I think something about the mother's relationship and that terrible sense of, that sense of needing to protect regardless is so strong and so compelling. And that's why you feel like you're walking on the edge of that coin. Because you know, you go one side of the coin and you may be making the final call that ends your child's life. You know, everybody says, let them hit rock bottom. What is rock bottom? Everybody's rock bottom is different. Sending your son out and closing the door behind them is sometimes the best thing you can possibly do, and sometimes it's the worst thing you can possibly do. So you have to evaluate for yourself, and I had to get myself into therapy, and I work my own program every day to learn how to not be an enabler. Because by instinct, we enable. That's what we do as parents, by instinct. So we have to learn how to undo and still approach it with love and compassion, and always be on their side. But don't always believe them, and don't always do the things that they would like you to do. It's hard.
Yeah, I mean, I know a guy in recovery whose phrase is always, you know, rock bottom is when you stop digging and put down the shovel. And that's true for a lot of people. For me, it had to be just utter hopelessness because I found what I thought worked, and I was going to keep riding it until the grave. And I'm really lucky to be here because I was in a really hopeless state of mind, but not everybody has to get there. And that's why I like doing this. I like speaking to you guys because there might be one person that doesn't have to get there, and they decide to put down the shovel and climb out of that hole. Thanks, guys, so much for having me.
We just wanted to formally thank you for sharing your story. It's such an important story that is a really rare opportunity. You see
fairly rare